Hollow Knight is a metroidvania game from 2017, meaning that at this point in time, it's already over 8 years old, which is crazy to say. Now, I didn't get into this game until October of 2022, but even so, it's still been a year or two since I've even touched the game. So because of not only that, but also the fact that the sequel Hollow Knight Silksong is projected to release here in a few months, I thought to myself that it would be a great time to replay Hollow Knight to prepare for the next game in the series. Now, I didn't do anything too crazy with this playthrough, I just got the main basic ending. I played the game for a few hours, defeated the Hollow Knight, which is like the ending B or something, and then I called it a day. But I figured I would still make a video talking about how it went. So was Hollow Knight just as good as I remember? And have any of my opinions on the game changed after replaying it? Let's find out. So the playthrough begins, and as always, we start off in a small but simple gameplay section right before the main town of the game, Deepnest. Like I said, the first area is super short and incredibly simple. If you die here, there's no saving you. Although I would recommend taking a short detour to get the Fury of the Fallen charm. It's not a charm that I personally would use, but the more charms you collect, the easier it is to unlock more charm notches, which is what you use to equip more charms at a time. So yeah, just grab the charm even if you're not going to use it. So now we're in Deepnest, and this place can be thought of as our home for the time being. As we progress through the game, more shops will open up here, and just outside the town is this giant well, and this is our gateway to the world of Hollow Nest. The first main area of Hollow Nest is the Forgotten Crossroads. This is a bit of an interesting place. A lot of new players don't even get past this place, mostly because it just looks really bare and boring. Obviously, to people like us who have already beaten the game, we don't really mind this area because we know there's going to be way cooler looking environments as the game progresses. But yeah, for new players, they often think that this is all there is to the game. Anyway, I decided I wanted to spice things up by fighting an optional boss as my first boss fight. That optional boss being the Brooding Moloch. The only reason to go out of your way to fight this guy is for the Mask Shard, which, if you didn't know, is basically this game's version of the Pieces of Heart from the Zelda series. I mostly wanted to attempt fighting this guy first just because it's a fun challenge, and as someone who got every single achievement in Hollow Knight, it would not be outside my skill range, so here we go. The key to defeating this boss right at the start of the game is using your melee weapon to pogo over the boss, sorta like you do in DuckTales. Placement is everything in this fight, so take it slow and time your attacks precisely, and as long as you remember that, you should be perfectly fine, as was I. And now we can safely move on to the other two bosses in this area, which are both complete pushovers. The Gruzmother is down after only a few seconds, and the False Knight is defeated as well. I also remembered to save some of the grubs in this area since they give you good rewards when you return to their nest. And also after killing the Gruzmother, I rescued Sly, and he is going to open a very useful shop back at Deepnest. I opened up the Stag Station so that I can fast travel, and I also purchased a map from a guy named Cornifer, although I'm not really going to be using it since I already know this map pretty well. Then I picked up the Vengeful Spirit, which is a ranged attack that will only become more powerful as you progress. So with all that out of the way, I then proceeded to move on to the next area, Greenpath. Since I'm still great at this game, I immediately did the skip in this area that involves using the pogo technique on a mosquito enemy in order to reach an area that was supposed to be too high up for me to reach. So that makes this area much quicker to get through. And then I came across Zote, which is an egotistical character that, if not for me, would have been eaten alive by that giant Vengefly. Make short work of this guy and Zote will reward you by being a dickhead. Thanks, man. Now we finally track down Hornet, the Silksong gal herself. She can be tricky for newcomers. I don't think I've ever died to her though. And with that, I moved on to the Fungal Wastes. There's a bunch of mushroom people here. There's also this fun mini-boss encounter with two big mushroom guys on each side. I always look forward to this, especially since it gives you a charm notch. Other than that, you mainly just want to get down to the Mantis Village, so you can grab the Mantis Claw, which allows you to wall jump. There's another optional boss down here, and it's my favorite boss in the game, the Mantis Lords. This is truly an immaculate boss fight. It begins with just one of the mantises is, and there's an emphasis on simply learning the attack patterns. After you defeat her, the other two come at you at the same time, and now you're trying to dodge both of them while also sprinkling in as many hits as possible. The boss fight looks harder than it really is, but it's still forever entertaining. The rewards are pretty worth it in my opinion. Not only do you get a stack of money, but you also get the Mark of Pride, which is a charm that largely increases the size of your melee nail. So with that, let's head to the City of Tears, which is by all accounts the absolute best area in all of Hallownest. So after unlocking the fast travel point, I went straight for the Soul Sanctum, which is an area deep in the city. There's a lot of mage-like enemies here that'll shoot homing projectiles. It can be a pretty brutal area for beginners, but honestly I never struggled with it too much. There's a mini boss, I guess, called Soul Warrior, and he's pretty predictable, so no issue. Next is the main boss of the area, Soul Master. This guy is also honestly pretty easy. He's not as predictable, but he is rather slow. So after we defeat him, we get the Desolate Dive, which allows us to use spells to smash enemies below, which means we can now reach the Crystal Peaks, which is my least favorite area in the game. But before we get into why I hate this area of the game, I want to take a break to talk to you guys about today's product review, which, mark my words, is my favorite product that I have ever received for review for this channel. The GameSir Supernova. This is a multi-purpose gaming controller that can be used on Nintendo Switch, PC, iOS, Android, and it's one of my favorite controllers that I have ever owned. Today I'm going to be telling you why that is. Let's go over some of my favorite features. First of all, I'm sure you might have guessed this already, but this controller is what I used to do this new playthrough of Hollow Knight, and I'm sorry to spoil it, but guess what? I did not die a single time in this playthrough, and that's because the comfort is elite, the shape is ergonomic, the rubber gripping is immaculate, the joysticks are some of the best I've ever used, and also, the buttons can be swapped depending on if you want the Xbox button layout or if you want the Nintendo layout. So let's say you're playing a game on PC but you want to switch over to Nintendo Switch. Well, just take the magnetic faceplate off and swap the buttons and you won't get confused. And also, if you're wondering why the controller looks different in some of my footage, that's because it came with two different magnetic faceplates. One is just a regular black, as you can see right here, and the other is blue that fades into black as it goes down. They have more designs than just this. This is just what mine came with. Now the Supernova has 3 different modes. You can use it wired or wirelessly, and for wireless mode there's 2 options. You can have it connect to a USB receiver or just use Bluetooth, and surprisingly the Bluetooth mode is a super good option. Most Bluetooth controllers that I have tested have horrible input delay, but this one is surprisingly responsive. So if you don't want to use the USB, you really don't need to. Also, it comes with a charging stand. All you do is set it on top and there you go. If the lights are on like this, it's charging. And you know what the best part about the entire controller is? All of this is only $49.99. That is crazy cheap for a wireless multi-purpose controller with this kind of premium feel. For the price alone, I cannot recommend this enough. I do, however, have one issue with the GameSir Supernova, and that's connecting it to different systems. Sometimes connecting this thing wirelessly can be confusing, having to use all these random button combinations. I mean, it comes with a manual, sure, but if you use this thing for multiple systems, you're gonna get confused. But taking this issue into account, I still need to give the Supernova a 9 out of 10. It legitimately is one of my favorite gaming controllers out there. Thank you to GameSir for sending me this, I really appreciate it. If you guys want 10% off the GameSir Supernova, I'll have coupon codes for you in the pinned comment. Thanks for listening, everybody. Now back to the video. So where were we? Oh yeah, the Crystal Peaks. This place is just confusing, and it especially annoys me how some of the areas are too dark to see in until you buy the Lumify lantern from Sly, which is not only expensive, but it's an item that only appears in his shop after you find the shopkeeper's key in the Crystal Peaks. So the progression of this area is just a bit janky in my personal opinion. Regardless, we eventually find the Crystal Heart, which allows us to dash forward and pass large distances. We can use this to find a shortcut that goes from Crystal Peaks back to Dirtmouth, but also we're gonna buy the Lumify lantern and then head to the crystallized mound so we can upgrade the Desolate Dive into the Descending Dark. There was a boss in the Crystal Peaks, but it's a super quick and easy fight, so most of the difficulty of this area just comes from how annoying it is to get places. So after obtaining the Descending Dark, we then fall into this pit which leads to the resting grounds. If we go further inside, there's a big lore dump where we're shown shown where to find the 3 dreamers, which are the people we need to defeat in order to unlock the final boss. But after finding this information out, the dreamers banish us to the dream world. Luckily, this moth lady gives us the dream nail, which is an item that can allow us to reach the dream world for things such as the dreamer locations, and also some optional boss fights. Next, we head down to the Royal Waterways to fight Dung Defender. One of the funniest concepts for a boss in a game such as this. I know I say this every time I bring this guy up, but he literally defends shit. Like, what a reason to live. Anyway, he's not too bad, although I did play a little bit sloppy, but I still didn't die to this fight. Now that we cleared out the Royal Waterways, we can now reach the opposite side of the city, but first, let's go down to the ancient basin, pick up the pale ore, which I'm not gonna use, and then reach the broken vessel, one of my favorite bosses in the game. Not because it's an actual good boss or anything, but because of how cheesable he is. He naturally gets knocked back by the Shade Soul. Oh damn it, I forgot to mention I took a detour and got the upgrade to the Vengeful Spirit called the Shade Soul. So yeah, basically I have a more powerful ranged attack now. It's absolutely broken. But yeah, since the broken vessel naturally takes knockback, he'll basically get hit twice every time you use the Shade Soul. So basically he just gets completely annihilated. We now have the Monarch Wings, which allows us to double jump, and before we leave, I figured I'd take on the more difficult version of the broken vessel since I already had the Dream Nail on me. It wasn't too bad, although I did play kind of sloppy once again. But yeah, it's still a very cheesable fight. Next, we're gonna track down one of the 3 dreamers. But first, there's a boss fight in our way. Luckily, there's a bit of a cheese for these guys. Before entering the boss room, head up here and break down this chandelier, and this will weaken the boss before even fighting it. The boss, or bosses, is the Watcher Knights, and they can be annoying for a beginner, but not for me. The best strategy here for my build is to wait until both Watcher Knights are towards the same direction. That way my Shade Soul attack will hit both of them. And yeah, this was pretty simple. 2 dreamers to go. I forgot to pick up Isma's Tear from the Royal Waterways, which allows you to swim in acid water, so I went ahead and did that because I need it to swim through this little crack in the fungal wastes. That way I can reach a certain part of the Fog Canyon, and now we can reach the location of the second dreamer. But first, we gotta get through one of my least favorite bosses in this game, Umu. This boss is kinda just stupid. It's not that bad though, because at least you get to fight alongside Coral, which is a character that I have forgotten to mention in this video, but basically he just appears every now and then and you get to talk to him for a bit. He's a nice guy and he helps you with defeating the boss. Then he unlocks the dreamer for you using his hat, and with that we have one more dreamer to find, and it's in the Deepnest. So we go through a bunch of tunnels and see a ton of disgusting looking enemies, and we reach this abandoned spider village thingy. We find the bench inside, and then we get kidnapped. So then we spawn in this area, which after we make it through, we locate the final dreamer, and with that we can now challenge the final boss, the Hollow Knight. This boss fight isn't really focused on being difficult, it's more of just a story-driven encounter, which I personally think is a great design choice, because if you really want a tougher final boss, you can just try the other endings rather than this basic one. But for this playthrough, I just wanted to play through the main ending in a nice and easy way, not trying to do too much. And after the Hollow Knight is defeated, we take on the infection for ourselves, and there you have it. That was my playthrough of Hollow Knight in 2025. Like I said, I'm not going to be redoing any of the side content since I've already obtained every achievement in this game, but it was fun to go back and revisit one of the best games I ever played. And after replaying the game, I'm even more excited for the sequel to come out. Thank you for watching everybody, and also thank you to GameSir for sending me the GameSir Supernova controller. Thanks for sticking around, and as always, have a good rest of your day.